we are with Alice Kettle. Thank you so much to be there. I wanted to understand how you had an idea of an exhibition curated by three person, Thomas Auseago, Muna El Fitouri, and myself. And you knew more, as far as I know, Thomas and Muna than I, as an approach for a contemporary show called Untitled 2020.
I was very intrigued and honored to be invited, and I was very interested that you were wrapping your curatorial voice around the artist, that you explained that you wanted to put attention to the vision of an artist, which would encourage the kind of individuality and the voice of the women, this notion of how art could be about social engagement, how it explores these notions of being human, the way we can use art to activate and empower ourselves. And for me, this is essentially what I'm interested in as well. So I was very excited to be invited.
It's one of the meaning of the show, and I hope you can come to see it in September.
Yes, I hope so. I plan to.
We chose a work from 2015 called Lucanicos, the Dog and the Cat's Cradle,
Yes,
which speaks about wars, but also a very specific way of making a painting by the tools you're using. So,
yes.
if it is something which for you it's significant in your work in a more general way.
Absolutely, yes. I trained as a painter, but now I work with stitch and textiles more frequently because I want to use both the material, the process of making, and the actual fabric itself to have its own sort of material language, as well as the iconography and the kind of pictorial description. And so this piece, I think this Lucanicos, the Dog and the Cat's Cradle, it's all about thread. It's about how thread can change the world, how it can transform. And that is in a way of saying that as artists, we can regain power, we can reclaim power in terms of politics and contemporary events. So the work is very much about power and powerlessness, where it uses the personal experience, contemporary event, and mythology all wrapped together, entwined together, a bit like thread entangles things. So it's very much about this particular event, which was at the beginning of the austerity protests in Europe. And in a way that signaled or heralded all of the kind of period of time from 2014 onwards, which has led to the UK leaving the European Union. So it heralded this moment of fragmentation and dislocation. And I have family in Greece, so I feel very European. So what this piece is about is, obviously I didn't know that Brexit was going to happen then, but I was using this idea that the powerlessness, the minority can reclaim power from the powerful, the authority. And so you have the girls, the minority, the girls, naked girls who are playing Cat's Cradle. And Cat's Cradle is a game a universal game where you make figures, children's game. But it's also a metaphor for saying how the world is entangled and how you can sort it out. So the girls have the power, and they are confronting the authority, the police, they're the riot police. And these were riots that really took place in Greece at that time, where the public was saying they were protesting against the austerity, the really kind of harsh conditions that they were having to live under. And this was because the European Union was imposing very, very kind of difficult restrictions on them. So the reality for people, the everyday was difficult to manage. So I used the idea of Ariadne's thread, where Ariadne gives the thread to Theseus to go and kill the Minotaur. So she has the power because Theseus can't get out of the labyrinth without the thread. So the thread is the most important thing. And Ariadne giving the thread has the agency, she has the power. So this piece is all about how we can reclaim power, how we all have the power, and how thread is part of that and because I use thread in my work, it's saying we have a voice, we can action change, we can transform the world. So it's about optimism, but encounter, and there's the dog in the middle, and there was a real dog in the protest called Lucanicos, which is why it's called Lucanicos, and he was a stray dog, and dogs are symbolic. They're this the dog of Hades. They are very they're coded in terms of their kind of animal identity. So he is the center. He's the mediator between power and powerlessness. So
it's something which is very much spoken in the whole show in general, and
yes,
we in a way choose singularities instead of a mainframe, so to put it quickly. And
really interesting. Yeah.
we put your work in a room with all the beginnings of paintings, to think
Yes.
about the risk of painting in a way, or how to risk painting, not the beginning of painting in history. So to ask if you were pleased to be in such a room.
Oh, yes, I was, and it was the first time that I saw who was in this space, and also I was very interested in the title that you gave, The Beginnings of Painting, because it's like something is emerging and starting, something new. So this feels very exciting and powerful, and the collection that you have there, all of those works, as curators, I can see how you make relationships between works and artists. So this is fascinating, but also I can see the kind of way that they all work together, because they are largely, many are using figuration, but it's very idiosyncratic and individualistic. And so it's kind of giving an alternative view of the world. They're human, but not human. Yeah. And I think there's something about encounter and about contradictions and about these kind of alternative relationships. So I like this idea that it's the beginning of an emergent form, but also I know all those artists, they use different media, maybe they're using painting here, but they transgress. They're not fixed in their place as artists. They kind of mediate between these different materials. So again, that for me sounds like this is about opening something new, opening a new, and maybe this is really exciting at this time when we've been shut down, because it's like emerging as a new form or a new voice or a new society or a new ideology. So I just thought this was fascinating, and I felt very proud. And it's like they're talking to each other. They've created their own universe in this room.
No, but that's one of the challenge. We name each of the rooms in a way, standing, sex, beginnings of paint,
yes,
morning, and on, to try to give that idea of risks. And we organize a kind of, based on one of the rooms in Thomas Auseago's studio, which is the thinking room, even if we call it studio.
Yes.
So this is my third question. Is the studio or the thinking space important in your practice, or necessity in your practice?
Oh, completely. And I think this is so exciting that you put this at the heart, in the center, because I think all artists, you immerse yourself in the process of making, and that's where thoughts arise, and the unpredictable, the risk, the unexpected happens. So studios are like laboratories for ideas, where things become embodied and physical through the process of making, so that you carry and they're like acting. You act out what you want to, something that is abstract and ephemeral, and you capture it and realize it, and then it becomes something completely different. So you need these spaces to experiment, and they can be battlegrounds. They can be, very difficult places, but they are places of action. So, and also I think these places where you have to be alone very often, you have to encounter yourself, you have to expose yourself through this process of making to let something emerge. So I think this idea that you have emphasized the space and the place and the actions of making rather than the end of the making is really interesting and very important. So I commend you. I think this is very exciting. So I'm excited to see it, because I think this is about, it's about conceptualization and then realization.